Hey friends, this is Angular session 3. Today we are going to discuss about TypeScript types and how you are going to create a variable in TypeScript. Let's start the session. In TypeScript, variable declare in two ways. One is by using var keyword. Another one is by using let keyword. The var keyword comes from ECMAScript 5 and the let keyword comes from ECMAScript 6 standard. So my preference is we'll go with the let. I will explain you why. In TypeScript, we have plenty of data types are available. We are going to see the basic data types. So declare a variable in TypeScript. You have to use var or let keyword. After that, the variable name. So I'm going to create a variable name called emp name. After that, colon the data type. What is the variable data type? You have to define. So in TypeScript, it is number, Boolean, string, array, or enum. So these are the data types available in TypeScript. So now I'm going to declare this is a string equal to the value. Let's print the value in the console. Console.log employee name is emp name. We'll save the file, we will compile it, tsc variable .ts. We don't have any error and we got the JS file. To run this, node space variable.js. Now it is printed. Whatever things we stored in the variable, it is printed in the console by using the variable name emp name. The same way, if you are going to declare a variable by using let keyword, instead of var, you have to use let. So this is a student name. This is string and Spider-Man. Console.log name is st name. Again we will compile this, clear the screen, run the things. The student name is Spider-Man, so it is displayed like. Okay, now we'll see what is the difference between var and let. The thing is like let will give you the options to identify the defects in the development time itself. We will see the difference for a var and let by using one example. For that, I'm going to create a variable let is condition. So I'm going to assign the data type for this variable is Boolean. Boolean is for storing the value like a true or false. Mostly this kind of a data type we are using for the conditional validation. So if you want to create a variable for condition like is value is available. So like that, for any type of a Boolean true or false condition storing, you can create a variable with the data type Boolean. Now I'm going to assign a value for this thing as false, and I'm going to create a one if condition in this condition else part. So this is a simple example. Is condition, I created one variable is condition. After that I assigned this is condition variable for the if else block. Inside this block I'm going to create one more variable by using var. So here I'm just creating a name like if block name as a string equal to if block. I'm printing here like console.log of if block name. Like the same way I'm going to create a variable in if I'm going to print the same thing here as like console.log if block name. So here we can notice I created this if block variable inside the if condition. That sense, this variable life will be there within this curly braces. The scope will be within this curly braces only. Like this variable birth happens from this curly braces start, and this if block variable ends in the curly braces end block. So the scope of this variable will be inside this if block only. It won't be populated in the else block. As per this example, this if conditions, this if else statement is always go to the else block. Let's compile this and then we will see what is the results we will get it. I am compiling. While I am compiling, I am not getting any error when I am using a var keyword. Note and run. See, the thing is like the first console is the first statement employee name, the second console is the student name. As per our example, is condition is always false, so it won't go to the if block. It will automatically go to the else block. But we are trying to print the value of if block name, which is defined in the if block. But we are getting undefined because that variable is not available within this else block scope, or it is not available in the global scope. So we cannot print the value for these things. But the thing is like undefined, it is not the meaningful error to identify the defect. Actually, what is the error happens? Why, where we missed? So these kind of things, it messed up when you are developing a complex applications. Instead of this, I'm going to suggest you to use let. When you defined let itself, now see that I just changed instead of var, I modified as a let. Once I modified itself, now we got some kind of an error in the code editor. Cannot find the name if block name. That sense, it is identified the issues in the development time itself. We will compile this and we will see what happened when it is compiling. CLS and compile this code again. While I am compiling, it shows me the error like cannot find name if block name. That sense, the error is identified very properly with what is the issue, why this compilations failed. Like that, if we identify the issue in the development period or in the compile time period itself, it will help us to resolve the issues in the earlier stage itself. That's why I suggest you to use let keyword for creating a variables. Now we will resolve this issue by using create a one more variable in the else block name as a string equal to else block. Okay, now we are going to create a number variable. For that, you have to use a let variable name like number of pages as a number to store the numerical values. Console.log as Enum. Okay, and if you want to create a array list to store multiple values in the single variable, then you have to use an array. To declare an array, you have to use two type of approaches. Like for this, let's create let. I'm going to store some employee numbers. So emp list as a string and square bracket. This means the emp list, it is a array. So equal to, within the square bracket you can assign the values. Now name 1 comma name 2 comma name 3. Now we are stored. This is one way of creating an array, and another way is like let student list colon array. Within diamond symbol you have to mention the data type. So string equal to the name student1 student2. So this is the way you have to define, this is the way you have to declare the arrays in TypeScript. There is two approaches, like by using the data type, after that followed by you have to use square brackets. Otherwise you have to use an array keyword. After that you have to mention the what type of data you are going to store in this list. So within this diamond symbol you have to specify the type. Both are same, you can use it. How you are going to access this array? So for that, console.log emp list within square bracket, the index starts with 0. Like if you want to access the first name, then you have to use 0th index, so 0. Now I'm going to implement the same thing for student list. I want to access the second name, the student 2. For that, the index number for student 1 is 0, for the student 2 is 1. So if I want to access the second name, then we have to mention 1. Let's compile this and we will test this. Compile. We don't have any error. So node variable.js. So for the first one, we mentioned the 0th index, so we got the name 1 in the console, and as well as for the student list we mentioned the index number is 1, so it is accessed to the second variable in the array list, so it is populated student 2. Like this, if you want to create an array and access the value from the array. Now we are going to see the any type. That sense, in JavaScript, if you have not mentioned any data type for any variable, that sense that type is considered as any type. That sense, you can store any type of a value. For example, I'm going to create like some detail. It's a variable name. I'm going to declare the data type for some detail variable is any. That sense, if I am going to mention as a true, then it will treat as a Boolean data type. If I going to assign string for those things, for example kingdom, it won't throw any error. If you want to store the details, if you want to store numbers, it won't throw error because we say specified this data type for this variable as any. That sense, in this variable you can store any type of a value. That is what the meaning. If you have tried the same thing in some other variables, like I'm going to explain you, I'm declare this number of pages as a number. If I'm trying to store a string values like any string, so I'm trying now to assign the string value in the number data type. I'm getting an error like the type any string is not assignable to type number. The sense this string is not assigned to the number variable, so it is throwing error in the development time itself. In that cases, if you want to store any type of a value in the variable, then you have to use any data type. Okay, now I'm going to explain the enum. Enum is the special data type to store the constant values. For example, in our applications, sometimes we have to use a constant value to validate some things like error messages, exceptions handling. We have to define some kind of predefined values for a validation purpose or a constants for our validations. So for that you can use the enum data type. How you are going to create the enum? For that you have to use enum as a keyword and then enum name, like you have to give in a title case, so country code, anything you can give, and within the curly braces you can give the enum names like India, USA, Japan. If you want to access this value, the enum, each and enum objects automatically the numerical value assigned to each values. See that in the quick tooltip is indicate country code dot India value is 0 and the USA it's 1 and Japan it's 2. If you want to change the values, like I'm going to assign for this India value equal to 32, that sense now the India value is 32 and the US value is 33. From this value it will increase the value for these things. We can use it for some kind of constant validations for your programs. So we will see later in our upcoming videos how you have to use the enum in an efficient way. Now we are going to access the enum type in the console. So console dot log country code dot India. We'll see the value. Again we'll compile this. We'll run this. See, we got 32 value. You can assign the string values for the enum members. For example, you can assign a value for India. The string value is IN. Now you can see the rest of the members showing some errors because it is expecting the numerical value and it will follow from the previous member. But the previous member is now defined as a string. So the rest of the member also expect the same data type which you mentioned in the previous member. So India is IN. Now you have to assign the value for rest of the members also. For USA, US, and for Japan, JP. Now I'll print the USA value and compile this. We don't have any error. We didn't see any error. We'll run the code. Now we got the value yes. Like this you can define the enum and you can use in your program. So that's it. We'll see you on the next sessions. Thank you.